Hey, trail travelers, this is Kerry. Today we're talking comms and can cheap GMRS radios work out on the trail? Well, let's find out when we come right back. Now, I am a huge proponent of having communications when you're on the trail. Everybody that's with you should have a radio, and you all need the same radio, or the same type of radio, I should say. We've talked about CB, we've talked about GMRS, and I personally am a fan of GMRS. I think the range is better, the clarity is better. They're very inexpensive to get started with radios. I have a BTEC 50X1 in the Jeep that's all installed. So it puts out 50 watts. Great. I can work with some of the repeaters here on the front range. So it's a great system. But on the trail, you don't really need the repeaters. You need to be able to talk to the other people that are with you. And so you don't really need a several $100 radio. You can usually get by with something inexpensive. Now, a lot of people go with the BTEC UV5R, which is a good radio. And there's, other than the fact that it's not legal to use on GMRS frequencies. So there's that. If you want something that's legal, you can either pay a lot of money. Not a lot of money. You can pay a decent amount of money for a built-in one like I have, or BTEC has a handheld GMRS radio, which is really good, or you can try and go cheap. Now, I often recommend right before a trail, if we're going out with new people, I'll tell them to run to Home Depot. There's a 2-pack of radios there for about $30, and they work pretty well. But I wanted to see what kind of the best value I could get, which would mean not the best value, I would say the cheapest. Well, let me try and find the cheapest radios I could find on Amazon and see how well they do out on the trail. Now, what I got is a 3-pack of radios from, it's called Suntong, S-U-N-T-O-N-G, I believe. I'll have a link in the description so you can find it. Now, based on the colors, you're going to pay anywhere from $59 to $79. This was the cheapest pack with the green, the yellow, and the purple. Actually, when I bought it, it was $49.99. Right after that, it went up to $59.99. So $60 for 3 radios. That's $20 a piece. That's a pretty darn good value. Now, are they any good? Well, yes, there you go. Thank you for watching. And they're actually pretty good radios. At first, they feel, a little cheap and plasticky, but so does the UV5R. There's nothing special about that radio. These have call functions. They have Roger beeps. They have NOAA weather alerts. They have all the discrete channels, all the privacy codes. Everything that you could want in a GMRS radio are in these little handhelds. Now, the funny thing is, I handed these out when we went on a ride with a bunch of people, so I could get some real world impressions from other people. And people said, well, how do you turn it up? I can barely hear it. Because when you turn this knob, which is the volume knob, it doesn't feel like it's attached to anything. It's stiff, but it doesn't really have the feel that you would expect from a volume knob, which is kind of strange. But it works. You can turn the volume up and it works just fine. Now, just so you can see here, I actually keep all of this in a Tupperware. I have a little piece of foam that separates all the wires and stuff, and they all sit on top in my little Tupperware thing. Actually, it's a Ziploc, not Tupperware, so I'm even cheaper, and everything fits in fine on here. But let me show you what you get. Underneath my foam here, it has this very interesting charging cable that is just standard USB-A on one side with a little power brick, and then it splits off to 3 tiny little jacks here that plug into the radios. So if we go over here to the speaker microphone side and we just open that up, there's a port for the speaker microphone and the charging jack. So what's nice is instead of having three different USB devices plugged in to charge these, you have one cable with three ends, so you can charge all three radios at the same time. I guess that's pretty cool. Now, I would prefer actually that these have a regular micro USB port on them. That way, if you're in your vehicle and the battery's getting low, you can just plug it in or just run basically indefinitely on USB power. So that's kind of the downside, I guess. It just doesn't really make sense that they did it this way. I like the convenience of being able to charge all three at once, but I'd rather these be USBs and that be USB on here, just because. Now, I will say, all day on a trail, we were out all day long and the batteries lasted no problem. So it wasn't that we needed to charge them at all. So that the charging wasn't an issue at all. Now, also in here, it has a lanyard for each one, and it has a headphone microphone for each one. So that's kind of pretty cool. Now, one thing, it's really the only thing that kind of bugged me about these, is the radios do have a Vox setting, and that's voice operated switch. So when you start talking, it transmits. So you don't have to push the push to hold. So when I was spotting someone, I had it right here, and if I talked, it transmitted. That worked great. However, when you put in the headphone, which was really nice so that I could hear very well, you have to press a little button on here to talk. The Vox doesn't work when you're using the headset. Kind of thought that defeated the whole purpose, because I want to be able to hear good and not have to push something to talk. So, and it's really close up here. It's really close up here. So if I have this in, I have to reach all the way up here to press to talk. Okay, great. I could have the radio down on my hip, but this is a really inconvenient place to have the press to talk up here. I mean, I can't use my hands at that point to give directions because I have to reach all the way up here. So for my purposes on the trail as a spotter, this doesn't work. Unfortunately, I wish it did, but it's too inconvenient to have to reach up to wherever that little piece is. Now, as a radio, they do work great. And, I can still give commands with my hands holding the radio, or just have it clipped to myself with the voice operated switch feature turned on. Okay, that works really well. All right, we just hold down the menu to turn them on. Real simple, illuminated display, nothing too fancy on here. Very easy to change the channels. You just kind of, you just hold down the power button, not long enough to turn it off, but just long enough for the channel to start blinking. And then we can go up and down and change the channel. When you hit menu again, now it'll go into the secondary. So these are kind of like sub channels. So right now I have those off. So all of mine were on channel 6 and off. That way we were all communicating. If I was on 6 and 1, 2, and 3, they wouldn't be able to talk to each other. So you can set up groups that way, which is kind of nice. So I'll hit menu, and here we have have to look up all the menus. LE off. I can't remember what LE was for. The call codes, the sounds, the power setting. So there's a handful of features on here. Oh, there's the NOAA stuff on here. It also has a scan feature, so I can just hold down scan, and it'll start running through the channels listening to whatever's out there. Let's see. They're awfully loud. The beeping is very, very loud. I should turn that off.
Sunday, February 7th.
There's the NOAA. Probably not picking it up too well inside the house here.
Natural avalanches may also run a long distance. A large load of new snow and strong winds have overloaded the snowpack. This will create very dangerous avalanche conditions.
All right. So, are we happy with them? Yeah, I'm going to say we are. They worked really well. When you're on a trail, you're usually not more than, well, you better not be more than a mile away from the other people in your party, because you should always be, there, I've got it turned off. If you have someone behind you, it's your responsibility to make sure that they're behind you. So you always should be watching checking your mirror to make sure the person behind you hasn't fallen behind. If they have, you stop, you wait, you communicate, you figure out what's going on. You don't go and get a half mile, a mile ahead of them. You should all be in a very, very short distance. The only kind of exception to that is when you're on very steep hills. You go one at a time, and that way, should there be a problem, especially in the winter, we go snow wheeling every weekend, you got to have a lot of distance on the hills, and that's when the radio communications are very handy. So as a trail radio, these worked perfect. Now, I'm here in town. There's buildings everywhere. I'm not going to get much in the way of range. Maybe a half mile. It's not going to be that great. In open area, these are 2 watts. So you're actually going to get some decent range. You could get 5-10 miles on these things in an open area. Now, here in Colorado, on the trails, we're in mountains, we're going over hills, we're losing that physical line of sight, so that's going to degrade the performance of these. But we never had any problems. We were separated by little hills and things, and they worked flawlessly. So I think, personal opinion here, I think pretty much everybody should grab a set of radios, whether it's a 2-pack or a 3-pack of radios like this, and keep them in your vehicle. That way, when you go out with other people, if they don't have communications, hand them one for the day. Of course, like I said, I have a installed higher power radio in the Jeep, but I still bought this 3-pack because we've gone out with people, and we go generally with the same people every single weekend. So we have the radio gear, and yet we've had people who have left a radio at home or their battery has died because they forgot to charge it. Always great to have backup radios. So, and then we have some people who have ones that were like 8 years old and they're like 0.2 watts. So they have just no power whatsoever. Nice to hand them a 2-watt radio. So we have really good communications. So Suntong GMRS radios. Now, before anyone gets on me, let me finish by saying, if you are going to use a GMRS radio, get your GMRS license. Yes, you have to have a license to legally transmit on GMRS radios. You need 1 per household. You don't need 1 per person. You need 1 per household. Currently, the cost of that license is $70 for 10 years. Here very, very soon, that price is supposed to drop to $35, but I can't tell you when, because I don't know. They announced that they were going to do it, but I don't know when they're going to do it. So I would imagine sometime in March or April of 2021, that will take effect, and the cost of a 10-year license will be $35. Right now it's $70, but please do it. And I'm going to tell you to do it, because if I don't tell you to do it, my comments are going to fill up with comments telling me how illegal it is to use GMRS without a license. And I know that, and I have my own license, WREL 483. So thank you very much. That way I don't get as much crap as I have on other videos. But check them out. The Suntong GMRS handheld radio, 2 watts. Very nice. Like I said, link in the description below. if you want to pick up a set for yourself or pick up, you know, a nice 2-pack of Midlands or Cobras. They're all going to be pretty good, but check the wattage. Make sure you're getting at least a 2-watt radio. That's going to get you good power out there. So that's my take on cheap, inexpensive GMRS radios from Amazon. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Trail Traveler. I'll catch you on the trail. Bye-bye.